A very good morning to you from Cyprus. Another fantastic night down Iron Apple, but you don't want to talk about that. You could just go to jail about hearing my experiences and my actions on one of my nights out. So let's talk about something more relevant. Let's talk about more Evangeline Lilly, more Ant-Man and the Wasp, if you can keep awake. Right, apparently the rumour that Peyton Reed directed Ant-Man and the Wasp is just a lie. No, Evangeline Lilly wrote, produced, directed, choreographed and starred in Ant-Man and the Wasp. When asked about her joint billing, she was very happy that women are being represented in the MCU. Well, there's a first time for everything, isn't there, Evangeline? They've had over a decade to initiate a Black Widow film starring Scarlett Johansson, one of the best actresses out there. Why haven't they done it? Because Kevin Feige was too scared to do a female starring movie because he was scared it wasn't going to make money or get much traction. And all of a sudden, the so-called failing DCEU gave us a female-led superhero film, one of the most successful, brilliant films of all time. So now they're scrambling. So in the last hour, in the final hour, they gave her joint billing, right? And she's going around saying, it was great to have my female voice heard. And she was showing off about choreographing her own stunts. It's an absolute joke. Let me make it clear. I love Evangeline Lilly. I loved her in Lost. In fact, her story is a great story. I remember when she was cast, but they couldn't get the visa to actually make her an American citizen or to give her a work permit to work in the US. So it was all very hit and miss. She's from Canada. She's actually been in an episode of Smallville. Very small extra part. If you blink, you'd miss it. But this is the kind of virtual signalling we're getting now from Hollywood. They don't make good films. They don't make memorable films. They just virtual signal. They just talk about, there's some, what's it called, dark objects are saying, oh, it was so good to represent self-harming. Enough already. Enough. Give us fantasy. Give us escapism. This world is depressing enough. I don't want to go to the cinema and see this world represented. I think that's one of the problems people have with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Now, don't get me wrong, I love those films and I don't share the criticisms of them. But I think that's one of the reasons the mainstream audience hasn't really bought into the DCEU. But it's not about the DCEU. This is about the MCU. So all of a sudden, we're getting the same type of noises we got from Kathleen Kennedy when she first took over Star Wars, the Force is female, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is very interesting as well because it's not just Evangeline Lilly who's making these silly little comments. And by the way, has anyone seen Paul Rudd? Anyone or the director talk about the film? Because, all right, it doesn't, Hollywood Reporter just seems to have spoken to her, but the Hollywood Reporter is obsessed with representation. So that's not a surprise. But, where's Paul Rudd? Isn't Paul Rudd the joint star of this film? Isn't it Ant-Man, then the Wasp? Basically, why didn't they just make a Wasp movie and just gave poor Paul Rudd and the Ant a cameo? Because that's what they wanted to do. They just didn't have the guts to do it because they were worried not enough people would turn up. And this is where we are with Hollywood now. So it's, for me, I'm not even going to go and see, look, I don't go and see MCU movies in the cinema anyway. I pre-ordered them on 4K. Now that they're actually available on 4K, something else that the DCEU got to first, thanks to Warner Brothers' progressive thinking. But basically, yeah, I don't go and see. I saw one film in the cinema and that was enough for me. Iron Man 3, yeah. They totally butchered the Mandarin. And also, you read the Mandarin in the comics, right? Or the Mandarin, sorry, not the Mandarin. That's how you eat, isn't it? But the Mandarin, right? You read him in the comics. He is frightening, right? He's frightening. And before we knew who he was, look, don't get me wrong, I laughed at the reveal about the Mandarin, but it kills the character. The Mandarin could have been an awesome villain, but we know Kevin Feige can't do villains or refuses to do anything too dark. Surprise, surprise, we got, I forgot the name of it already, I've still got alcohol in here. Avengers Infinity War, we've got a great, dark film, Dark Thanos, brilliant, But, in Avengers 4, they're just going to go back in time, bring everyone back alive. And that's something else I want to talk about, right? I believe people are going to get really pissed off with Avengers 4. Why would someone get annoyed with a Disney film or a Marvel film? Put them in jail now. Well, you ain't put me in jail, right? And I pretty much get disappointed by all of them, even though I've got the whole collection. But yeah, I think there's going to be complaints because they're going to bring every single person back to life. Now they reckon they're not. Now, let's say they don't, right? Let's just say they don't. They're still going to piss off MCU fans, and let me tell you why. Because what's going to happen is, there's another theory of mine that actually, and I've read it a lot on the internet as well, that they're actually going to make all their standalone films now set in the past. So, Spider-Man Homecoming 2, which is Spider-Man around the world or away from home or wherever it is, I think this could be kind of Captain America Civil War. Could be. It could be. And if they do that, he's not going to be Spider-Man, isn't it? So I don't know what they're going to do, but they claim some of the people. No, actually, they've claimed that all of the people who are dead, right? Right. So Spider-Man's dead. So that's what I'm kind of confused about. That's why I think Spider-Man Homecoming 2 will be set in the past. But again, could be so wrong, and that one theory I just gave you is total bullshit because there's more plot holes than an actual MCU movie. And I just feel I have so many feels for the MCU, and most of them are not good. I watched them, I enjoyed them once, and then they're chucked in my cupboard. And this is the difference with the DCEU with me. I actually have watched those films so many times. Now, that might not be kind of what everybody else does. I'm just talking about my own personal experiences. But I do start to fear for the MCU now because, as I say, the virtual signalling, Avengers 4 is looming. Now, Feige made a fantastic, dark, gripping, tense movie, but in Avengers 4, he's got to fix all that really and go back to type. And that's the problem he's got, because people were kind of excited about Avengers Infinity War, a dark Marvel movie that actually works, still with a few gags, and seeing characters we haven't seen before being on screen together was a wonderful, I can't criticise what they did. But the problem with what Feige does is he's done that, but now he's got to go back and do it. Now, he's talking about having Avengers in space, going here, going there, having a really different MCU universe. The problem is that's not really what the audience want. The audience just want to carry on this journey, which is watch a film, say it's the best film ever, then forget about it. And this is really the problem that the MCU have. Obviously, there are no problems. Everything in the garden is rosy right now because they're making money. But the problem is now they are changing what they are doing. And personally, if I was them, I would try to evolve the franchise a little bit, but without changing it dramatically. But I tell you what I think is hilarious as well with Kevin Feige. He was advising the DCEU to kind of look at Superman the movie and make their films like that. The problem with that is not everyone wants to see light and fluffy and jokey films and camp films. That's the problem. This is why I think Walter Hamada's a genius for having this DC light and DC dark. It's going to be very interesting. It's not going to be confusing like the pundits are doing. So, we are really in interesting times. Going back to Evangeline Lilly, obviously Disney have sent her out there to say all this stuff. Look, I don't think Evangeline got up one morning and said, right, I'm going to talk about my female voice being heard and that I set up all the fight choreographs when you didn't. A message and a warning to Evangeline Lilly. Do you remember that Friends episode when Joey Toll said in an interview that he helps with some of his lines in Days of Our Lives? Do you remember what happened to Mr. Tribbiani? They wrote him off by throwing him down an elevator shaft. So, don't piss off the people behind the scenes. But, what I've heard her say is absolutely ridiculous. And it's via Disney's mouthpiece, The Hollywood Reporter. So Disney are going all in now with identity politics. We've seen Brie Larson slaughtering white men for no particular reason. White men are part of your audience, Brie. But again, I believe she's being sent out there by Disney. And this is very passive-aggressive. Now, while Brie Larson and Evangeline Lilly are triggering people, Gal Gadot was at a cancer ward with a child suffering with cancer. I wonder which one the audience will gravitate to. See you later.